Good afternoon, almost good evening. This is the House Appropriations Committee on May, oh my goodness, March.
Oh, yeah.
2025. It will be May 20th.
Get out of here.
And so we have a few things we're gonna do tonight. We got a bill today. We have to get a bunch of bills out and we have to hear them before we can get them out. And so this is the stormwater bill, H 481. You don't have anything in paper on your desk. However, Erin has put it on our committee page, so you can find it there. I need to get out of where I am. Let's see where we're going. And I know we have Michael O'Grady from Council. Are you the person who's going to be talking to us first?
I believe.
Okay, and maybe the only person, I don't know. Come on down. But while Mike's doing that, just so you know, after this, we are going to go over a bunch of language that Grady has for the budget. And he's also going to give us a list of the requests for language that he has, and we want everybody to look at it. And then you know whether something you have is on the list or not on the list yet. And then, so he's going to be working on that overnight, and we'll go over those pieces tomorrow. And then we will talk about the numbers. We have some new numbers to look at too. And so we have a few things to do. We hope to get out of here. Depends on how much we talk, like me. So maybe by 7:30. Maybe not, maybe we don't do a dinner break if we can snack our way through and instead of taking a break and staying longer. But the more we get done tonight, the less late we stay tomorrow. Okay, that's it. I'm turning it over to you, Mike. Thank you.
Hello, this is Michael O'Grady with Legislative Council. I am going to talk to you about an act relating to stormwater management. Before I get into the text of the bill, just to provide context. Many of you, most of you have probably heard of the 3-acre stormwater permit, which requires those parcels of impervious surface of 3 acres or more that were never permitted by ANR or were permitted under a 2002 stormwater management manual. The Clean Water Initiative, Vermont Clean Water Act of 2015 requires those parcels to get a operating permit from ANR, which generally requires them to retrofit and redevelop that impervious surface. It's expensive. People are struggling with it, and there are concerns about how to implement it and when to implement it and whether or not funding is available to help people implement it. There is a program called the Green Schools Program that is helping schools. And I heard the other day that pretty much all schools that are under the 3-acre will be funded pretty much almost entirely. But then that leaves residential subdivisions, businesses, and others. This bill attempts to address some of those concerns, but not all of them. But it also extends the deadline so that there can be additional discussion about how to comply with the 3-acre permit and what funding may be available to assist people in complying with the 3-acre permit. So that's the context. I'll take you into the text of the bill. Section 1 amends that section of Title 10, 1264. That is pretty much where all the stormwater requirements are located. And it provides the first changes on page 2, lines 11 through 16. Municipalities have been working with some of these subdivisions, 3-acre or otherwise, and they either the subdivisions can't afford it. They don't have a homeowners association to take responsibility. There might be physical constraints at the property where they couldn't do any stormwater controls. Municipalities, some would like to help their residential subdivisions do this, but they don't have a way of directly assessing those subdivisions without going to a full municipal vote for a special assessment district. This language gives those municipalities that assume the responsibility for a stormwater system to assess a municipal impact fee on the users of that system, provided that a majority of the property owners subject to the impact fee consent, and it's fairly apportioned to all of the users of that system. There's technically already this authority in statute, but it's rarely used. This is just calling it out for the purposes of these stormwater residential subdivisions. Moving on, you go to 1264G, which is the schedule for the 3-acre general permit. Currently, those parcels in Champlain and Medford-Magog were supposed to be permitted, and by be permitted means starting the permitting process for this permit by October of 2023. Bill pushes that out to 2028. Then for all those other watersheds, it's pushed from 2033 to 2038, or not later than 5 years after a binding stormwater specific waste load allocation has been established for that watershed. What that means is if there's a TMDL that comes into place for one of those waters after, or between now and 2038, the TMDL deadline is going to control, not the 2038 deadline. I'll stop and see if there's any questions so far.
TMDL means?
Total maximum daily load, it's basically the budget that a water needs to reach in order to satisfy all of the Vermont water quality standards and support all of the uses under the standards. For example, Lake Champlain is impaired because it does not meet the water quality standards because phosphorus in the water impairs recreational use and aesthetic use and aquatic habitat. So there needs to be a budget set to allow for phosphorus to go into the water, but that will still allow the water quality standards and those recreational and other uses to be met.
And may I just have this whole discussion is way above my head in many, many ways. I just want to try to get an idea of what happens. We have these rules that we're trying to manage the amount of phosphorus or other things going into the lake. A flooding event like Tropical Storm Irene broke that budget in a day, more or less. How does that impact any of this that we're talking about? And if it's nothing, great, we can move on. But I'm just like, what happens when the budget is broken by climate change?
So the budget, I'm going to just try to
Crayon is good for me.
take a shortcut to this answer instead of giving you the full. The budget is supposed to have a margin of safety in it. So to account for things that are unaccountable for or that are unpredicted and that are not something that you measure or manage on a day-to-day basis. So that margin of safety is built in. It sometimes is not adequate for those 100-year or 300-year storms. But that is what the budget is supposed to do to address those concerns.
I can live with that. I don't want
Thank you.
Yeah.
We can spend, yeah. Yeah, Lynn.
Yeah, one of the things that I recall when this was all done is that, whoever did this has been natural resources or time, is that there really weren't enough engineers to be able to do all the work in the timeline that was set up at the time. And we probably haven't gotten any more workforce that can do the kind of studies that need to be done. Is that, where are we now? Is that part of this? Or
There was definitely a concern that the engineering community wouldn't be able to meet the need, but they are currently meeting the need. What might be helping is that not everyone is going out to contract for their services, that they know they might not be able to afford it. They might not be getting municipal help. They might not be getting any help. So there are those that are very much down the path of the engineering feasibility analysis, the design, and there are others that really need to get some help in the start of what they're doing. So, but the engineering so far, there was a concern, but I haven't heard much of a concern. I think the engineers are doing pretty well with this program.
Okay, let's move on.
Moving on, you go to page 4, line 11, section 2. The Clean Water Fund, when it was originally enacted, had a revenue source in it, the clean water surcharge on the property transfer tax. Over the years, you have amended that tax, that surcharge, to provide that some of it will be used to pay down debt on a housing bond that was issued in 2017, 2018. And that you were then going to sunset the clean water component of the surcharge in 2027, reduce the surcharge from at that time 0.2 to 0.04, and then repeal the entire surcharge in 2038. This language in sections 3, 4, and 5 repeal the sunset of the surcharge entirely. So the surcharge would remain. It is currently 0.22, which is what you changed. I think it was last year or last biennium. There is still the language that the first portion is used for the housing bond, and that would continue. But there would be no sunset under this language. It doesn't mean you couldn't revisit in the future the sunset of this language, but currently A&R came in, they requested the repeal, generates about $8 million, significant part of the Clean Water Fund. They believe it's needed for the time being, especially past 2027.
So the agency came in and requested it?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
So sections 3, 4, and 5 are all changing session law because when you dedicated a portion of the surcharge for bonding, you made a lot of purposes and findings and intent statements that referenced all the sunsets, and I had to change all of that. So that's why we love findings. And so that is what sections 3, 4, and 5 do to conform those findings language to the repeal of the sunsets.
So $8 million a year, the 0.22%. Does that money get spent every year?
Yes.
Does it get zeroed out every year?
Yeah. So the Clean Water Fund, it's a slightly different model of a fund than most special funds. Instead of it just being paid out from the fund, the Clean Water Board recommends to the governor and to you, the General Assembly, how that money is appropriated, and then you appropriate it all. And whatever is not spent from that appropriation is adjusted in BAA. But yes, it's generally spent every year. Section 6 is a amendment to an existing grant program that goes out to effectively private property owners with developed lands that need financial assistance. Currently, it's a grant program, but the agency has asked that it be amended so it's a financial assistance program so that they can provide additional forms of financing other than grants. And they have a pretty good summary of the different things that they can do. They can do subsidies, they can do low interest loans, they can do no interest loans, they have various mechanisms that they can use and that they would like to be able to use for this program. This program is also amended to clarify that it's available for the 3-acre served 3-acre permit, which you see page 7, lines 5 through 9, but that it's also available to those who need a permit in a stormwater impaired water when that parcel did not get the necessary permit. There are some of those that they're not in the Champlain or Memphremagog basin, they're in a stormwater basin, and those parcels need the 3-acre permit as well. And then the next section, 928 on page 7, line 14, going on to page 8. This is another program. It's a municipal program. It provides assistance to municipalities for them to comply with their regulatory permits, like the MS4 permit, like the municipal roads permit, but it's also going to be available to them now when they help and assume the responsibilities of residential subdivisions to meet the 3-acre, they would qualify for assistance under this program as well. And then coming to a section that's clearly within your authority, this is the priorities for the Clean Water Fund Board or the Clean Water Board to recommend how the Clean Water Fund is used. There are 3 tiers. This is amending the second tier of priorities on page 9, line 10, to provide that for that municipal stormwater implementation program, that one we just talked about, the money going to municipalities, that it will include at least $1 million annually recommended for the cost of complying with permitting requirements under 1264 C7, and that's the 3-acre permit, 1264 C7.
So this is money that's not general fund, it's coming from the Clean Water.
Water Fund.
You like that?
And it's not this fiscal year, because remember how the fund works, it will be for next fiscal year, but not impacting any budget this year.
Okay.
Should I move on?
Yes.
Section 8 is an appropriation of $5 million from the Clean Water Fund in fiscal year 2027 for the municipal stormwater implementation program for the cost of complying with permitting requirements. So this is 2027 for that recommendation. Although it says at least 1 million in that first year, it's requesting 5 million.
Okay, wait a second. Okay, so it's clean water transfer, it's not, okay,
Yes. Should I move on?
yes.
Section 9 is how stormwater utilities set their rates. Last year, the General Assembly amended this section. And one of the things that it did on page 11, line 20, it said that when they're setting their groundwater surface or stormwater rates, that they can do it based on the equivalent residential unit on an average area of impervious surface. That sounds reasonable, but in fact, most of the utilities set their rates on the median area of impervious surface.
Sense.
So if you don't change this to allow for average or median, they would all need to change their rates and their ordinances, and they really don't want to do that.
Wayne?
You want to leave the average, some of them are doing it by just a straight average rather than the mean fund.
That's why it says or.
So they have the option.
They have the
Either
option.
way.
You don't want to eliminate one.
Right, because maybe one of them did it by average, but from what I've been told by municipal stormwater utilities, it's their understanding that it's all been done by median. Moving on from there, you get to the next section, section 10. This is a study committee. It is to look at the creation of regional stormwater utilities that will assume or be able to assume the water quality permitting requirements in the state.
I feel like we're slowly inching towards county government in a way. You know, we have the communication unions districts that we created, and now it makes sense to do some things regionally. Okay.
That's a common response to this, that,
Is it?
yes. That you're looking at county government, you're looking at the CUDs, you're looking at other.
No, I mean, there's a reason it works.
It would make my job really easy. Just tell the county to do it, you know.
Yeah,
So those study committees has the commissioner, DEC, a representative of the league, a representative of municipality with an MS4 permit, a representative of small municipality with a population under 2,500, a representative of the Green Mountain Water Environment Association. They're the people that run your wastewater treatment and stormwater systems and your public drinking water. Page 13, commercial and industrial business subject to the 3-acre permit, and then a representative of an environmental advocacy organization. They will review current statutory authority to how to develop utilities, because you can create a multi-municipal utility today, but whether or not it needs to be amended to facilitate it, they need to propose an approach for implementing a regional utility that would allow the utilities to assume liability and responsibility for compliance with water quality laws. They need to review cost-effective and equitable approaches for revenue raising, because that's one of the things that utilities can do. They raise rates, or they set rates and raise revenue, and recommend how to authorize a regional stormwater utility to assess fees or charges for the purposes of stormwater controls to meet TMDLs. That's effectively what it would do. It would report back to you January 15, 2027, and take some time. They will meet. There is compensation and reimbursement.
Yeah.
Not more than 8 meetings paid from the money appropriated to A&R. And then the act takes effect July 1, 2025.
okay. Excellent. Anybody have any questions on this? At the moment, we have joint fiscal to present something, and Mike, if you would just talk with Emily for a second. We're not sure if there's something that we need, not at this stage of it or not, but you guys could come over. We've got Chris or James. James, 3 out of 5. It's our day with James.
The record, James Duffy, Joint Fiscal Office.
Coffee.
We also have Ted Barnett in the room today for follow-up questions the committee may have regarding the clean water surcharge components of this bill. Madam Chair, would you like that I share my screen behind me?
Does everybody have it in front of them?
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Mr. Grady just did a great walkthrough of what this bill does. I, in the interest of time, will not run through all the various components, but JFO identified 4 parts of this bill that carry a fiscal impact. On page 1, you can see each of those 4 buckets bulleted. There are 4 bullet points. The first 2 really relate to the revenue side of the ledger here. So the authorization of municipal impact fee assessments and the repeal of the sunset of the clean water surcharge are on the revenue side of things. And then those second 2 bullet points or buckets, amending the municipal stormwater implementation program and the proposed study committee on the creation of regional stormwater utility districts. Those are on the appropriation side of the ledger. So if it works for the committee, I can focus on those 2 appropriation pieces first, or just go.
That's all we need.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So essentially what this bill does is it gives a couple of directives regarding how the Clean Water Board, which makes recommendations for how funds are appropriated from the Clean Water Fund, gives directives to the Clean Water Board about how they prioritize what they award money to. What this bill essentially does is it tells the Clean Water Board that they will prioritize a $1 million annual investment from the Clean Water Fund for municipally owned stormwater systems and municipal developments. And it also proposes a $5 million appropriation in fiscal year 2027 for grants to municipalities. And specifically municipalities that are fully responsible for residential stormwater systems. So in Vermont, a municipality can assume full legal ownership and responsibility for the proper functioning and environmental regulatory compliance components of a stormwater system. So for those municipalities, this would prioritize future funding beginning in fiscal year 27 for grants to such municipality. I'll note though, this language, none of this has a direct fiscal impact in fiscal year 26. These are,
It's also coming from the Clean Water Fund and not a general fund, so
that's
we're,
correct.
it's.
So you can think of these as all internal reshufflings of how the Clean Water Fund works in future fiscal years. And then the other piece, which is comparatively quite small, is this proposed study commission, which would use $6,000 from ANR base budget to pay for per diem and expense reimbursements for study committee members.
Great, go ahead.
This doesn't have to come out of the legislative budget then?
No, ANR is gonna take care of it.
Because it's such a small amount relative to ANR's base. Yeah, it's,
Like that,
yeah.
like it. What's I gonna ask you? Oh, I know what I was gonna ask you. Do you guys know, this came out of environment, it went to House Ways and Means. Do we know what the committee votes were on each of those, in each of those committees? Does anybody know?
I can provide the vote from Committee Ways and Means momentarily.
And Trevor, this will be yours, right? Okay,
I'm sorry?
the person who needs to know, I just want to be clarified, Trevor's doing to run the
Says
bill.
11-0, wait, 0.
11-0 in Ways and Means, okay. Oh, we'd have to go to their committee page. Let me go to the environment committee page. I'll race you.
We're all right. So.
I give up.
I have to figure out 481.
Pull the hand in.
Okay, here it
Yeah,
is.
sure, I don't know what they passed out.
Well,
I had a phone a friend, it was 9-2.
9-2?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
and I see it here, 9-2, exactly. Good.
Representative.
You know who's reporting it? You know who's reporting it?
No, I have no idea.
Well, I see record of action. Oh, no, maybe she's the clerk.
No, I only asked because Representative North was headed earlier. I didn't know if that's me.
Oh,
Well, it
Or
could,
maybe he was
Yeah,
just
it could-
interested in what kind of exciting things were.
yeah, I don't know.
maybe.
What was the question?
Who is reporting it? for?
From environment?
For environment, Representative Logan and Representative. They were the finalists.
Okay.
Who's environment?
Let's see what we really do. Okay, anybody have any questions? We kind of clear, there's no general fund money.
Straightforward.
Emily, do you want to explain what's happening? There's a technical amendment in section 8.
So when looking at section 8, we just quickly noticed that it said like direct the Clean Water Board, but it really should say recommend. Ultimately, you guys, right, get to make spending authority decisions, so they can recommend to the legislature, not direct the legislature. The Clean Water Board can't direct the legislature to do anything, they should recommend to you. That was the big change, and that the title just says appropriation, but you're not actually making an appropriation. So it's gonna, and they're only recommending an appropriation, so it's gonna say appropriation recommendation, so.
Very
Mike's gonna
technical.
go edit and make just a quick technical amendment for the committee, if that
Right,
works,
right.
and then.
So I'd like to vote on this tonight. We need to get things out, and we were gonna have to vote on everything we don't vote on today, tomorrow, and, so
I would move that we vote, what is it, 481?
481.
Move 481. There's no amendments.
We're gonna have an amendment. That's gonna be our amendment.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
But it was a good try.
Yeah,
Kinda know, but yeah.
So I'll tell you what, why don't we, it's gonna be like 5 minutes or something?
I think so, he was going back to the office to do it.
Okay, so let's go off live for 5 minutes until